Welcome back. With Illinois returning to a full reopening, employers are trying to figure out how they're going to deal with returning workers. The big challenge is dealing with two different sets of people, those who have been vaccinated and those who have not. Here to talk about some of the legal things that everyone needs to know is Jeremy Glenn. He is a labor and employment attorney with Cozen O'Connor. Thank you for joining me this morning. We appreciate it.
My pleasure, Sylvia. Nice to be with you.
So let's start with OSHA, because apparently, what are the rules when it comes to the workplace as of today? Because people are coming back to a whole new world.
So OSHA has issued an emergency temporary standard that applies to healthcare organizations and related ancillary healthcare businesses. But OSHA didn't put out a formal rule with respect to other businesses, office spaces, hospitality, healthcare, other than healthcare. So the OSHA guidelines say vaccinated employees can generally not wear a mask in indoor places, but unvaccinated workers need to wear and should wear a mask in most indoor spaces and maintain social distancing. So that sets up for a company the need to have two different sets of guidelines based on whether an employee is vaccinated or not.
Yeah, that's going to be the tough part. I know some people nervous about going back to work, not knowing who's vaccinated and who isn't and who is. So that creates a problem for people who are concerned about their own health. So when you talk about what OSHA has said, the thing I heard you say was social distancing. Does that mean employers are going to be required to provide some type of barriers to help separate those, or how's this going to work?
Well, every employer has a general duty to provide a workplace free of known hazards. And as part of doing a workplace assessment and thinking about what's the nature of our work, what are the spaces in which we work, how much contact do we have with each other, one of the pieces of information to gather is who is vaccinated and who is not. Now, legally, an employer can ask that question, are you vaccinated or not? Legally, an employer can ask for proof or to sign a certification, or it can rely on the honor code. And legally, the employer can have two different sets of requirements for those who are vaccinated or not vaccinated. And now, an employer should allow someone who wants to wear a mask to continue to do so. There is no prohibition against wearing a mask because of your own personal concerns or those in your community or family.
Okay, do you foresee then some hard set rules being placed? You talk about having a location for vaccinated workers and then another location for unvaccinated workers. This sounds like trouble could start from a situation like this, because there's a lot involved with this. It's almost like a scarlet letter, if you will.
There will be a morale impact, and I think an employer has got to take into account how will the two sets of requirements impact the workplace. It's very important legally not to exclude unvaccinated workers from any opportunities for team meetings or trainings or client opportunities. And yet, the idea of identifying someone who's vaccinated or not wades into a murky legal area. So I recommend the employer collect the information, treat it as confidential, and then, of course, allow anyone who wants to continue to wear a mask or socially distance to do so.
So what kind of legal and practical challenges can employees face for having two sets of rules in the workplace?
Well, the practical challenge is going to be a level of discomfort for those who are asked to wear a mask while they're working. In an office setting, there may be closed door spaces that are amenable to taking off the mask, but in the common areas, we're going to see a difference in how employees are moving about the common spaces. And I think an employer has got to be cognizant on, if we're using the honor code, are we providing our employees an opportunity to share their concerns and address them on a ready basis?
So what do you want people to know who haven't gone back to work yet, but are, anticipating that's going to be happening soon, as it is for a lot of people? What do you want them to know about their legal rights then, bottom line, when it comes to going back to the office?
You have the right to wear a mask if you choose to do so. You have the right to not get a vaccination for medical and religious reasons. But you do have an obligation to report to work if your employer requires that, and you have an obligation to share information about your vaccination status if your employer requests it.
Jeremy Glenn, with Cozen O'Connor. Thank you for joining me this morning. Lots of questions I know from people who are heading back, and a lot of people will be heading back by August or September. So I think we're going to see the workforce grow and even more questions to come. So we appreciate your time this morning.
I hope we talk again before Labor Day.
I'm
Thanks,
sure we
Sylvia.
will. Have a great day.